Hello everyone, my name is Ellen Thompson-Jennings. I call myself the Family History Hound, and I write a blog called Hound on the Hunt, and you can find a link to that blog in the show notes below. Today I'm going to talk about what's in your DNA at Ancestry. I'm going to give you a little tour of my own results, and specifically today we're going to look at my ethnicity results and what you can learn from that. I hope you enjoy what you see, and if you do, please subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. So here we are at my Ancestry DNA results. So you see this is the overview screen. At the top you'll see hello Ellen, and it also tells you that I've actually attached my DNA to my genealogy or ancestry tree. You can choose to link it to your public tree, or you can choose to link it to a private tree. You can also choose to have a tree that's specially made for your DNA results, so it doesn't have to be a complete tree. It could be a tree that just has your direct line in it, but you want to make sure that you have your tree extend out past living people, because otherwise you'll get one of those funky trees that you see often with a DNA match where it's just all private, and that's because those people are still living. But if once you get to some people that have passed away already, then they show up, and it makes it easier for your DNA matches to see how they might connect to you. So let's go down to the DNA story, which you'll see on the left, and that's your ethnicity, and that's probably one of the main reasons why people do a DNA test, is to understand their ethnicity. So that can be a good thing for genealogists, and it can be a bad thing. It can mean that you might find a new cousin, but it also can mean that you have a cousin that really doesn't care about family trees or genealogy. They just wanted to find out whether they were Scottish or Irish. So they may not answer your emails. And the other thing is that they may not know anything about their genealogy. So that can always be a little bit tricky. So let's go down to discover your DNA story. You click there, and now we're going to get a more extensive view of the ethnicity. Now, Ancestry recently updated this information. It was just a couple months ago, and so you'll see that I have England and Northwestern Europe for 43%, Scotland 20%, Wales 11%, Sweden and Denmark 8%, France 7%, Norway 6%, Ireland 4%, and Germanic Europe 1%. And now that 1% of Germanic just came this last update. Now it doesn't mean that your ethnicity has changed. It just means that Ancestry is getting better and better at presenting this information to you. So you'll see this is your more ancient DNA. It's telling you, so sometimes people will say, well, I don't know where this is coming from because I don't have that kind of ancestry. But some of it is your ancient DNA as well as your current DNA. So if you notice here, it shows the communities, and now that is more of your recent DNA. So here we see Surrey and Sussex. That is where my father's maternal side of the family came from, so that's pretty accurate. And so if you click on that, you can actually get quite a bit more information, and you get a timeline. And so and it's quite interesting to read the people that you might connect because of that, and it'll talk about the community history and the changes, and you can see how things change as time goes on. And you can also see some of the migration routes that people may from that location went to. So you can see here in 1825 they were starting to go to Canada, the US, Australia, and so that's kind of interesting. I really wasn't that interested in the ethnicity part of it, of my DNA. I was more interested in the genealogy part of the DNA and the matches. So now we're going to go back a screen and have a look at what else it's telling us. So if we scroll down a little further, you'll see that now this is the new thing that Ancestry added, and it's called Sideview Technology, and it actually is starting to look at your DNA and tell you what side of the family you got those different ethnicities from. And so here it says maternal and paternal, but if you look at this for the very first time, it'll say parent 1, parent 2. I actually have figured out which parent it comes from, and so I've been able to change the title of those sides. So we're going to look at the breakdown. So click on that, and then now you see that you can actually click on these buttons and it will show you the breakdown. So you can see that on my maternal and my paternal side, I do have England and Northwestern Europe. So if I click Scotland, one side has a little bit more than the other side. And then if I go to Wales and unclick the Scotland, then you see I got a little bit of that as well from each side of the family. So then we can go to Sweden. Now in that case, I only got it from one side. And because I, remember when I first looked at this, it was parent 1 and parent 2. And so as I look at this, I knew that it likely came from my maternal side. So then we can look at the French, and here we see again that it's only one parent that has that. Now I do know that my French DNA comes from my dad's side of the family, from the paternal side of the family, and it actually comes from my grandfather, who was illegitimate and he didn't know who his father was. But I know that his father was likely French Canadian. So then the next step is Norway. Now we see again both sides. And then Ireland. Now Ireland is a little tricky because I'm I have Irish on my father's side, so I'm not sure exactly why it just showed up on one side of the family. Maybe I didn't get that part of the DNA from my father. That's quite possible because it's, a little bit further back. So then the Germanic, well, you can see that I got that little sliver, and that's from my mom's side of the family, and that is pretty accurate. So then that's when I decided that I would change those little tags and make them maternal and paternal. So you can see here, you can also look at, some more information about how inheritance is random, and a little bit more about the side view technology that Ancestry is using. You can also see that they have this other graph where you can see exactly the percentage that you got from each parent. And this is actually up here where you can make that edit and make that change. So I believe that Ancestry is going to be doing a lot more with this side view technology. I'm really interested to see where this goes and see how it might help us as genealogists. You'll also notice that right beside the overview heading is a share button, so you can actually share it with people and show off your side view technology. So if we scroll, now I've gone back to my ethnicity page, and I'm going to scroll a little further down, and you can see that I'm going to see more of the DNA communities that was shown earlier. And also you can see that not only have the Surrey and Sussex that you can see down here, but I also have that French Canadian Southwest Quebec French settlers, and and that's all coming from my, which would be my great-grandfather, the unknown great-grandfather. I believe I know who it is, but I'm still working on that, and I plan to do some target testing once I find somebody that descends from other members of the family. But so we can get more information if we click on those other communities. And you'll see I also have Greater London, and I have Southern Ontario settlers. So you really get a lot more information than you did when we first began getting ethnicity information. Like I say, I wasn't really that interested in ethnicity before, but it's, you know, starting to get a little bit more interesting, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more in the coming months and years. So I hope you enjoyed my tour of my ethnicity results at AncestryDNA. One thing I didn't mention is that your ethnicity can be helpful if you have some anomaly in your results. So for instance, I mentioned I have French DNA, and so I know that if I have a match that matches me on French DNA, then that's likely coming from my great-grandfather that I mentioned, that mystery guy. And so if you have parents that both have very similar ethnicity results, it may not be as helpful for your genealogy. So I hope you enjoyed this, and in coming weeks there'll be another video about matches. And if you liked what you see, please subscribe. Thank you.